Summer's coming to a close across Nebraska. However, there are a couple different things that we can be doing to make sure that our landscape is still providing for our pollinators before we put our gardens to bed. We know that native insects tend to like our native plants, but during the fall, some of those floral resources might not be available. We can lean upon some of our introduced non-invasive plants such as the seven suns tree, blue mist spirea, even some of the sedums. The seven suns is a small tree or a large shrub that does great in our areas. It blooms late August into early September, and when it's not in flower, it does have exfoliating bark to add some winter interest into the landscape. If you're daring, you could try the blue mist spirea, which is a perennial-like shrub that can be a challenge to grow in Nebraska. However, if you have that perfect spot and it comes back, it's going to reward you with some fantastic flowers that the bees and butterflies like. When it comes to some of our native plants, we need to make sure that we're choosing the right plant for the right place. A lot of our fall blooming natives tend to be large and they can dominate the landscape. When you look at some options for you, such as goldenrod, we can choose from the Missouri goldenrod or the undescribed species called Wichita Mountains. As a side note, goldenrod is not responsible for your fall allergies, that's ragweed. We can also look at some of our other plants such as the fall blooming asters, some of the liatris, even some of the Joe Pye weeds. They all do really well, but make sure that you're choosing the right plant for your location. We can even look at some of our perennials such as the blue cardinal flower. This is a smaller plant that does well in a shaded location and damp soils. It has a pale blue flower that grows about maybe 2.5 to 3 foot tall, and it does great in challenging locations. Before we do any type of cleanup in the garden, we want to make sure that we keep as much of the foliage intact and on the ground. This is going to help provide a lot of overwintering locations for our insects, so don't do a lot of cleanup until next spring. Fall is in the air, fall is for planting. Go out into your landscape, look at some of those flower gaps, see what might be missing, and considering adding some of these plants to your landscape.